My name is Mark Stebbe. I'm the administrator here at Fishers United Methodist. I'm also involved in our ministries in Africa. So today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to kick things off with an update about the Green Hill Amani School. Mark's going to follow with an update on the pastor's school. And then Saneta Maiko is going to come up and kind of sum it all up and talk about the impact that these ministries are having in the place of his birth. So today, again, actually a year ago today, almost, I stood before you and I introduced Green Hill Amani School to many of you. And it was an honor to do it. It was a pleasure to do it. And it's even more of a pleasure today to show you what's happened in the years since then, which is very remarkable. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about nutrition at the school, about our incredible staff at the school, and then try to tie it all together and show the impact of what we're doing today, how that can affect our kids in the future, and give you a window into what's next at Green Hill Amani School. But the kids are always the star of the show. They take your hearts. And Ben had his heart completely pulled from his chest in this moment, and I was glad to be able to capture it. So what has happened in the last year? This is one of the most beautiful things that I saw, was we discovered last fall that not all of our kids had Bibles. How can a Christian school have kids that don't have Bibles? So we solved that. So members of this congregation got together, we wired some money, and within about 6 days, every fourth grader on up had a Bible. And that will be part of our plan going forward. But this came to really hit home because Penny, God bless you, Penny, had prepared a vacation Bible school for this guy to execute. Come on. And it actually went okay. But when I talked about scripture and I said, folks, we want to study this verse, these 7th grade girls bolted for their classroom to get their Bible so that they could read along with me. Right? And I call that the maturation of their ministry. And you'll hear that theme a little bit today, that so many things we're doing now are maturing. And because we're able to go back year after year, we actually see the fruit of that. Because when Penny and I met these girls, they were in 3rd and 4th grade. Now they're in 7th grade, and we get to see them blossom and see everything that's happening. A year ago, Penny met with our teachers and said, if there was one thing we could do for our students, what would it be? And they talked about nutrition. They asked for more eggs and more fruit and more meat in their diet. So today, on those bowls, you see a nice hard-boiled egg. So our kids, once or twice a week, are getting that now. They're getting additional protein. There's practical things that we're doing that are not always absolutes in Kenya. Things like fire extinguishers and smoke detectors. We want to demonstrate to our kids and to the community that their safety is paramount. We do this not just to be in code, but because we love them. And this is not something you always see there. It's a little different than here, but that's an example of, again, how our facility is maturing. For those of you that have been there, and there's several of you, and those of you that have seen pictures, this is the hill. It is Green Hill for a reason. And that hill used to be a slope with nothing in between. So what happens? We had erosion problems, lots of erosion problems. So now everything is stepped. We use that actually for instructions. We can have kids step there, sit there, we can do big presentations there, but it's also protecting our school. When the school was launched, that itty-bitty building way at the back, that was the school. 3 classrooms with 120 kids, 40 per classroom. In the last 5 years, everything else you see coming down the hill has been built, all through volunteers, all through donors that understand the potential of this incredible place. Now every one of our kids has curriculum. Our kids a year ago were sharing books. Now all of our kids have their own books, including our preschool students who now have picture books that introduce the English language to them. The teachers, after the pro team that they went to Penny, said we need more books. We need more of these things in our school. So again, we're able to deliver these, and you see these smiling faces, and you realize that every one of these little 3- and 4-year-olds is going to exit our school speaking 2 or 3 languages. They're going to speak Swahili, they're going to speak English, and they very well may speak another language that is indigenous to the area. A year ago, I talked to you about some property that we needed, that we were praying about. And when I was in Kenya, I said, if there's one thing the congregation can do, it's pray that we get a meeting with Samson, our neighbor, to get that middle property. We already own the property on the right. That's an acre that we currently have planted with tea. We already own the property on the left. That's where the school sits, but that big one in the middle is what we were trying to get. Not only did we get that property through incredible generosity, but we now have this on that property a year later. And this is our junior secondary school. That is our engineer, Clement, who's a hydrologist for the Republic of Kenya, but he's also a certified engineer and built this fortress of a school that later in a few minutes you'll see. had 350 people on the roof for a celebration, and we had no doubt into the structural integrity of this place. And the day of that celebration, all right, and this whole thing I'm talking about today, by the way, is a celebration, start to finish. All of it is a celebration. But this was a special day, and this was the junior secondary school, and this was taken a little bit farther up the hill. This is at 6,800 feet of elevation, by the way. This is on the equator. So for baldies like me, the sun is just intense, but the temperature is not, because it's at 7,000 feet of elevation. But you see the tents going up, right? And that's a celebration sign in Kenya. You see the unfinished building, but you see wonderful things are about to happen. You felt energy in the community. You felt, and just like you would here, we had the families start to show up, and aunts and uncles and loved ones and people that were just ready for something special to happen. The kids were ready. That is Deborah on the left, who is the star student of the school. She's a student body president. She's a 7th grader. And all the kids have been practicing all week. And they'd actually been practicing on us, the visitors, doing spoken word presentations and poetry and songs and dance. So there's all this anticipation for this about to happen, where they stood and they danced and they performed. And just like if you were sitting in Lantern Road, or just like if you were sitting in Riverside, or you were at Heritage Christian watching your kids do something special, those ladies on the right showed that pride and that love and that excitement to see what was happening. Auntie Esther and Grandma Maiko and other favorite aunts just looking upon these kids with this just joy that the kids were living out their lives the way that they had hoped they would. Let's talk about nutrition. So in Kenya, water boils at 212 degrees, just like it does here, right? There's a lot of similarities. But there is a dissimilarity that is really glaring. In the United States, estimates are that between 3 and 4% of kids under the age of 5 have stunted growth because of poor nutrition. And that manifests in many cases in height, weight, and then could be cognitive challenges. In rural Kenya, estimates say that as much as 20%. So what we do for our kids, particularly those kids that are 3 and 4 and 5, is consequential to them for the rest of their lives. So every morning when our kids see these colorful, you never think plastic stuff could be so beautiful, but they see these colorful cups come out and they see it filled with porridge every morning. Sometimes porridge is accompanied by an egg, sometimes maybe some papaya, maybe a pineapple, but every morning they see this and they look forward to this because this might be the only meal they get until 1 or 2 o'clock. But that's something that's consequential, again, for their growth. Later in the day, those same pots and that same fire is going to produce lunch for our kids, high protein lunches. A lot of the challenges we have in Kenya with nutrition are the kids are getting like a single source of protein. They're only getting beans, or they're only getting something else. We give multiple sources of protein. So here we have maize and beans, which is many of the kids' favorite foods. Later, and we have cooks that are just the most loving, amazing people, Mr. Evans and Miss Beatrice. They have joy. The joy that you see in his face there is all day long, right? And he does this because he loves the kids. And that food ends up in another one of those colorful bowls. In her bowl, you see a little bit of cheese. It's hard to see, but there's also goat in both of those bowls. Yes, we eat a lot of goat in Kenya. Goat and chicken is the primary meat that our kids are able to eat. Chicken is really scrawny, but it tastes really good. And the goat, maybe an acquired taste, but Ben and I particularly both love it. And then on the right, you see the remnants of all the eggs that our kids are getting every day. And who thought eggshells would be so beautiful? But they are, because you know they're in the bellies of those kids, and it's producing better outcomes for them. Our staff, wow, our staff is amazing. Our staff consists of teachers and security guards and cooks, and in this case is 3 interns. This is Mr. Evans, who is our principal, or head teacher, essentially the principal, who speaks softly, but every word he says has impact. He's amazing. When he preaches, it's remarkable. That's all I can say. A lot of our teachers are also pastors. Every morning starts with prayer and devotion. This is one led by our chaplain, Pastor Cosmos. And then every day, our preschool kids get together to start their day. And these are 3s and 4s with their wonderful teachers. And they do what 3s and 4s do. They have fun, they start to learn, and they get a good meal. And then you have teachers like Mr. Zachary. Mr. Zachary doesn't play. How many of us have a teacher in our lives that was that tough teacher, but you knew that teacher had your back and loved you unconditionally? This man was one of the sweetest, most empathic. He adores his kids and fights for his kids, from shoes to nutrition to their brains, everything. This is the guy you want to have your kids back, and I'm so proud to have him. And we need men and women like Mr. Zachary because they have to wrangle this every day. 195 kids from 3 to 13, right, who come as far as away from 7 kilometers to school. On the left, you'll see a green t-shirt. That's a VBS t-shirt. In the center, you see the red. That's a Tim Horton shirt. Just pointing that out. I just love that you see some Western things here in our school. And our teachers get results. Wouldn't be me without a chart. 22 schools in the educational zone. We rank 5th. Our little country school ranks 5th out of 22 schools. You'll also see right in the middle, you see that terrible 19 and 15. We had a problem in 3rd grade, right? Our ranking was really poor. So we addressed it. There's more curriculum. They had some intern help. There was more remedial training, both for teachers and students. And I guarantee you, in the next round, I'll share it with you when we get it, we're going to have a much better ranking. But the majority of our classes are in the top 4. We meet with the education department for the Republic of Kenya. They love our school and they advocate for our school. We learned that there's a special education office in the Republic of Kenya because in our school, kids with learning differences are going to get the same opportunities as kids that don't have them. So we're excited that we're able to make these kind of connections. We have land to grow. Let's talk about what's next. We have a fully undeveloped acre that currently is farm. It could contain goats, could be a co-op, it could be a dormitory, so many possibilities. And that's the exciting thing about where we stand today. We're also learning how to help our school do a better job of being self-sustaining so they rely on us less. There's an example. It's called a pasho mill. Our cooks have to walk down the hill to the village, bring our corn, have it milled, haul it back up in the village, from the village up the hill, and it's a serious hill, pay a fee. Well, we're going to purchase a pasho mill for the school so they don't have to do that, and we provide that opportunity for the village. They can then come to us, and if they want to leave a few shillings, that's fine. If they want to leave 2% of their corn, that's fine. But it's an entryway into self-sufficiency for the school, and that's one of many examples. Another dream that we have is a bus. Someday, some of our kids walk 7 kilometers to school, and these are like little kids, leaving at 5 a.m., holding hands, walking to the school. So a bus is step 1, a dormitory is step 2, but we'll be talking very likely in the next 12 months about a van that can actually traverse the hill and help some of our kids that are at risk get to school more safely. And this is the incredible complex that has been built through the generosity of United Methodists. That center section is going to house grades 7, 8, and 9. The lower unfinished section is going to have a STEM lab and a library. And that top section in October will have a roof put on it, and that will very likely be the home of a vocational training center for our kids in 10th through 12th grades in the coming years. So we're still working through that, but we actually have the ability to do another level on top of that. The structure is that sound. There's a lot of updates. I want to first, before I go on to the conclusion of my portion today, just thank you as a congregation for letting me do this. Liz Simmons says this a lot. She says, you let me work with junior hires. Well, you let me go here. You let me go to the slums of Kenya in Nairobi and get to see George and Matthew's in Matthew's home church. You let me go worship with Pastor McPeak from Greenfield there on the right at Masimba United Methodist Church, which means the lion, right? You let me do this, and I can't thank you enough, and it's just transformational. The time that I have at the school, this was the greet on that first day. For all of us that go, the time that we have there is something that we cherish the rest of our lives. And these are the final goodbyes that day. And it's those smiles, it's that connection. Mark talked about us being connectional. We're connectional internationally here. That's what we remember. Girls like Mildred. Mildred's my friend. Many of you have heard me talk about it. I get teary thinking about it. She's just my friend. She is one attached to my hip as soon as I show up, and she leaves my hip crying when we leave. And having relationships like this makes it all amazing. Because our kids come from humble beginnings. I didn't say poor. They are rich in spirit, they are rich in generosity, they're rich in so many ways, but it's more humble than we might be used to. This is a really nice house in the area. And you notice the VBS 2022 shirt on our mom there. All right? They come from homes like this where they don't have the opportunities that we have, but it doesn't mean the opportunities don't exist, and I can prove it. I can prove it through Elizabeth, who is an intern for us this year and is a Green Hill kid, who this week is starting college at Egerton University, studying medical laboratory science. She's a Green Hill kid from this village. And we can prove it for Mr. Eric, who's a sophomore at Africa University. Another one of these kids who came from the beginnings, just like you saw 2 slides ago, right? Because of the foundation they got at Green Hill and the support of their village, these kids are coming out and going to university, which is absolutely amazing. It's faces like this that keep us engaged here, right? The things that you are doing through your support is putting a spark in this child. Look at that face. What is she going to be able to do when her teeth start growing in, right? And beyond, what is she going to be able to do? Because now she's being fed both spiritually and physically, educationally. There's people in their lives, not only in the village, but people sitting in a church 8,000 miles away that love her. If you want to be part of that and see that, you can come to us next year. You can either be part of the fun team like Mr. Cool there, or get laughed at by Elizabeth Ellcessor for my terrible dancing that I was attempting to do, all right? But these are all part of the journey, and we would love for you to come with us next year. So if you're interested in that, we're going to go in June. You can talk to Mark or Saneta or myself, and we can share more. We don't have all the details yet, but we're just putting this together. We won't end with that last picture, though. We'll end with this. Again, thank you for your support of the school. Thank you for the support of our kids. Thank you for putting a spark in this young lady that Christ and the Holy Spirit and our God, the Father, will do something with and do something magical. And there's another 194 of her in that school every year that have that same opportunities. So I thank you for your time today. I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Mark, and we're going to educate you on the pastor school.
You can see why I love working with the people here at the church, and Mark is one of the really crown jewels of our ministry and our staff team and of what takes place in Kenya. Okay, I want to walk you through just a few things related to pastor school. About an hour away in Kisii is where we hold pastor school. And you remember George? He came to spend time with us. Matthews, we invited, but his visa was denied. Both of these guys worked with us. George taught with me, and Matthews with Ben. We had an opportunity to go to George's house and visit his family. He came and stayed with us, and so here he is with his wife, Mary, who owns a sewing business. And I love their daughters' names, Patience, Gladwell, and Comfort. Aren't those beautiful names? Patience is a music major and a senior at the university. Gladwell is just now entering the university, and Comfort is in 8th grade. And then we went to see where Matthews serves in ministry. It's in the Nairobi slums, and so this is like an oasis from all of that. I had an opportunity to go and worship with Saneta's mom and sister, once again at Amani United Methodist Church with Pastor Cosmos. It was a beautiful thing. For all of you that like this service to last 59 and a half minutes, that one lasted 4.5 hours. It was 3 hours plus in before they tapped me, and I went an hour. So no more complaining, all right? Here's the group. We took a group pic when we were done. It's just beautiful, beautiful people. And there were lots of leaders and pastors there. So we gathered all the pastors together, and we put our hands together, and we said, we're brothers in Christ, which is really an amazing thing. Many of you had the desire to make sure we put the Word of God in people's lives. And so we found in Tanzania Swahili study Bibles. As far as we can tell, they do not exist in the nation of Kenya. But we found them, and they were shipped to Nairobi, and George got them, and then we hauled them, and all these kind of things. Here's Ben describing to the pastors what we're doing. And when they came to get them, we could have handed out bricks of gold, and they wouldn't have been any happier. I mean, this was a phenomenal moment. They took markers and wrote on the edges their name, like, "Don't take my Bible," because, it's like, this is it. Many of them have never even held a study Bible, and now they each have one, which I think is really, really cool. This is, a sample of teaching. You don't need to worry about being able to see it, but I would write in English, and Rebecca, my interpreter, would write in Swahili. And so as we were talking, she was talking, as we were interacting, and then it was amazing to have her work with me. And here she is at a distance. Well, you can see her. She's working with George when he taught with me. And here's George close up. I'm going to tell you that one of my favorite aspects of all of this was working with George. He was as phenomenal there as he was here, if you remember when he was here with us in January. And he was incredible. In fact, it went so well. I see my role shifting from being a teacher to being a trainer of teachers. We're still working this out, if we can figure out the logistics and all those and the funding and all these things related to it. But I really see my role shifting to train up more Georges. In fact, if I'm able to go back, I've already asked George, and he said yes to being my co-trainer. So George will work with me to train the next group of teachers, African teachers, who can then teach, understanding the culture, the language, the situations they're in ways that we can never understand. George is a rock star. He's really, really just a great human being, as many, many, many of the people are. One of my true highlights for this trip was taking my niece, Elizabeth. If you had the privilege of being here, just before we left, Elizabeth was in our worship service and gave her testimony. She's only been following Jesus for 18 months. And so much of this was new to her, brand new. Being around Christians was new. Being around people who mentored and discipled her was new. Seeing children who walk 4 or 5 miles to get to school not having proper shoes, toes sticking out of their shoes, that was new. There was so much new to her. So she was filled with wonder everywhere, but embraced it and loved the time being able to do it. This was a surprise for me. It only came as a result of a trip that Lisa and I took to California to visit our daughter and son-in-law. And we said, well, we're there, let's visit my siblings who live in California. And there she was, and she told us she was now following Jesus. And I said, would you pray for our mission trip? And she said, can I go? I said, can you pray for it? Not can you go? So I'm going to say this to you. Mark said, you're invited next year. And I want to ask you, can you go? It will change your life. It really will. So if that's something that stirs your heart, we would love you to do that. Why do I go back time after time? Well, this might be it. In 2025, this is a picture. I'm holding a little girl. A year later, here's my niece, Elizabeth Ellcessor, holding that same little girl, a year older. And that child will get another year older, and then another year older. And she'll most likely go through Green Hill Amani School. She's part of the Amani United Methodist Church where I preached. It's right there near the school. She may even one day, who knows, be in pastor's school. What we know is that, like here, the children grow and the parents have dreams and aspirations for their kids. And to be able to see them grow and change is a really, really, really beautiful thing. So that's just a real 30,000-foot overview of pastor school. I could talk for days, but what I really want to do is bring up my friend Saneta Maiko, because he's going to give you the why we do this. What is the impact? This, as I said, the church is where his mom attends, his sister attends. This is his home community. The school is the land where his family is from and what they're part of. So, my brother, would you come?
Wow, this has been amazing work. Sharing what God has done in the lives of our pastors, of Mark, members of the church who have always prayed for us, given us blessings. You remember you laid hands on us before we left. Some of you stretched your hands from there and said, go and spread the gospel. This is what God can do. Your prayers, they mean a lot. Your giving, your best wishes make a difference. When I invited fishers to be part of this journey, I never knew what is going to happen. I just trusted that God will raise men and women who come and make a difference for Jesus. And for sure, something powerful, something transformative is happening. What you have seen today is just a small portion of the experience. If you were there just feeling how people are moving, their passion, their excitement, their joy. It will be amazing if you went to experience that. I know not everyone from here will be able to go to Kenya and experience what Mark and others have experienced. But I tell you, we promise that we'll bring stories. We'll share stories. We'll share pictures. We will make sure that every coin that comes from this church has been put to use in changing not only those kids, but transforming pastors and transforming communities. We don't know what the future holds, but I know that the future holds the right thing. We have a saying that says, I am because you are, and since you are, therefore I am. There's no way we can do this by ourselves. There's no way only the Marks and the Ben and Mark can do this without you. So the future, we hope that these pastors will be used in reaching out to communities where people have not experienced Jesus. Does it mean we don't have Bible schools or universities in Kenya? No, we have many universities. We have even Bible schools in Kenya. The challenge is it's very expensive to send someone there to go through the training. Even if we wanted to get someone to teach the pastors, thank God I don't pay Mark when he comes to train. I don't. Thank you for paying him so that he can do that. Thank you for paying Ben so that he can do that. And that's the blessing and the gift, because these pastors want to go and further their studies, but they cannot afford. It's expensive to go through training. Even bringing them here, many of them want to come and go to school here. You know how much it takes to train a pastor with a Master of Divinity for 3 years? Here is almost 120,000 if you are an international student. But if we took some trainings there, guess what? And they are taking online classes from United Seminary in Ohio. It costs less than 10,000 for someone to get their masters and continue to transform the village and continue to be with their family members, continue to witness Christ. So, brothers and sisters, you have been invited. Are you going to come? Are you going to go? Let me tell you how you can go with us. Pray. If you don't show up physically, pray. If you don't show up by prayer, give. If you don't show up by giving, love. And do all those things that make a difference for Jesus. I am humbled and thankful that Fishers United Methodist Church said yes into this invitation. I can't wait to see these kids graduate from their school. They go to high school, they go to college, and who knows, some of them will surprise us. They might come to the United States for further studies. People ask me, how did you get to Indiana of all the places around the world? And I say, why not Indiana of all the places? I've been blessed to be in Indiana, and I thank God for the people here in Indiana, and especially United Methodist Church here in Fishers, for your trust in these leaders, trust in me, trusting in the work that we do in the village. May God bless you, may God guide you, and may God protect you. Amen.